Okay, I got chills all over me as I read this story this morning. I felt like the Lord gave me this story when I was on a hike. And if you don't believe the Bible after this story, I don't know what to tell you. This is unbelievable. Back in the book of Genesis, chapter 22, this is a story about Jesus that wouldn't come for 2,000 more years. Just listen to this story, the one of Abraham sacrificing his only son, Isaac, where basically God had promised Abraham a lineage that would number the stars in the sky. And he gives him a son, Isaac, in his old age, and then tells him to kill his son. And Abraham's like, what the heck, God? So this is what happens. Abraham obeys God and takes his one and only son, Isaac. He says, take your one and only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering. So Abraham rose early in the morning, get this, took his one and only son and entered on a donkey. Does this sound familiar? So he enters the land on a donkey and he cut wood and laid his son on top of wood and bound his son to the wood. Now, remember, this is 2,000 years before Jesus came on the scene. This is in the first book in the Bible, Genesis. And Abraham took the wood in the burnt offering, laid it on his son Isaac, and then took in his hand the fire and the knife. And his son Isaac cries out to his father and says, my father. Sound familiar? Laid on wood, cries out to his father. And so his father says, don't worry, son, the Lord will provide. And so while his son is bound to the wood, his son cries out to his father, and then this is what God provides. Get this. It says this. God calls out and says, do not lay your hand on the boy or anything to him, for now I know you fear God. So guess what happens then? Behold, in verse 13, behold, behind him was a ram that was caught with thorns around his head. So he sees a ram over there. God says, I know that you won't withhold your only son. I know that this isn't an idol in your life. And so I'm going to provide you a ram, a perfect male ram with horns or thorns around his head. Does that sound familiar? And they slaughtered the ram instead. So you're telling me that this doesn't point to Jesus. Well, let me give you one more crazy fact. This mountain is the same exact mountain as Golgotha. Now the name changed. This is the same mountain where Jesus died 2,000 years later. And you're telling me that the scriptures aren't inspired by God. I got chills all over me. This is unbelievable. Thank you, Lord, that you have given us these little Easter eggs, these little nuggets all throughout your scriptures to point to the Messiah and the fact that Jesus died with us and our sin on the cross.